Hello, and welcome to the next reading of The Great Cosmic Mother, Rediscovering the Religion of the Earth by Monica Sjöö and Barbara Moore. All right, this time we are going to be starting section 2, which is Women's Early Religion. And within that section, the first portion, which is called The First Mother, and that is on page 46. Really hope you're enjoying these readings. I'm loving doing them. I'm working on putting them out as fast as I can. It is a lot, so I'm doing a few sections at a time, and then editing, audio correction, kind of trying to make this nice. I know a lot of people are probably just listening to it, which is fine, but I am a professional videographer, so figure I'll do it how I know how to do it, which is decent. All right. The First Mother. Biology is not destiny, but like the sea, it is a beginning. The mysteries of female biology dominated human religious and artistic thought, as well as social organization, for at least the first 200,000 years of human life on Earth. The first human images known to us are the so-called Venuses found in Upper Paleolithic remains, 35,000 to 10,000 BC. From the way these statues are positioned and located in cave hearths, niches, and graves, they are interpreted as cult images, the mother guardians of the daily life, death, and rebirth of the people. These Venuses, carved from stone, bone, and ivory, and shaped from clay, are very fleshy, more or less stylized to represent pregnancy and abundance. Though named after Venus, the Roman goddess of love, they are no longer seen by archaeologists as Cro-Magnon bunnies. They are not sex objects. They are magic images of the mysterious power of the female to create life out of herself and to sustain it. The statues have no feet. The legs taper to a point, so they could be stuck upright in a soft hearth or niche. They were placed everywhere. These statues appear in Europe with the appearance of the Cro-Magnons. But much earlier, during the Neanderthaloid period, dating from at least 200,000 BC, evidence shows that great magical power was attributed to the earth as mother of life and death. Neanderthals buried their dead curled in a fetal position, painted red, bones were painted with red ochre. Analogically, the dead were to re-enter the earth, the tomb, the womb, to be reborn again. A Neanderthal corpse found in Shanadir Cave in northern Iraq had been laid to rest in pine boughs and strewn with wildflowers. Even earlier than this, a remarkable find at La Ferracie in the French limestone country shows the beautiful resonance that was felt in the minds and hearts of these earliest people between life, death, and the mother. In a rock shelter, a child's grave was found covered with a large stone slab. On the underside of this slab, small cupules had been scooped out. These were all in pairs to symbolize the mother's breasts. These breast-shaped cupule markings were made throughout prehistory. They are found over great areas of outcropped rock in Europe. But on this stone slab in France, covering a Neanderthal child's grave is where they first appear. Mircea Eliade, the great student of Aboriginal religious symbolism and shamanism, speaks of a primary intuition of the earth as a religious form. The earth was seen by all primal people as the source of nourishment, protection, power, and the mystery of cyclic recurrence. Perhaps the first human analogy made was between the earth and the female, who performed the same functions on an individual level. Especially awesome was the woman's ability to bleed rhythmically with the moon's phases, and her periodic swelling up and dramatic expulsion of a new being. Paintings of the mother giving birth, with the expulsed child still connected to her via the umbilical cord, are found throughout the Cro-Magnon caves. Childbirth is a powerful drama and ritual. To imagine the enormous impact of pregnancy and childbirth on our human ancestors, we have to remember that Paleolithic people, like many Aboriginal people today, did not know the connection between intercourse and pregnancy. The male role might have been seen as opening the womb, but the pregnancy itself was seen as resulting from a magical intercourse between the mother and the spirit world, or it was seen as a parthenogenic act, the woman as spontaneous and autonomous creator of life. In these cave drawings of childbirth and in the Venus statues, as well as in many images of gravid animals, the fertility of earth and woman was imaged and celebrated as a spiritual magical act to ensure the year's abundance of game and fruit. The seasonal return of vegetation and young animal life following winter and apparent death gave early humans the idea of a magical cyclical rebirth of their own kind. Entombments, whether cave graves or the later underground vaults and collective burial mounds, were ways of returning bodies to the womb of Mother Earth, where they waited for rebirth. In the later megalithic porthole tombs, holes were laboriously chiseled out of the portal slabs at the grave entrance to simulate the birth canal opening. Even later in Egypt, the overarching sky goddess Nut was painted on the inside of coffin lids. This is a lovely echo of that first stone slab placed over the Neanderthal grave, with the mother's breast protectively covering and nourishing the dead child as it waited to be reborn. Death is the powerful dramatic mystery equal to birth, and both are overarched and contained by the Great Mother. This concept of a female earth as the source of cyclic birth, life, death, and rebirth underlies all mythological and religious symbology. It is the source of all religious belief. It is important to grasp the time dimension involved. God was female for at least the first 200,000 years of human life on Earth. This is a conservative estimate. Wooden images of the Mother God were doubtless carved long before the stone Cro-Magnon Venuses, but wood does not survive. And long before those first breast shapes were carved in the Neanderthal grave slab, or the red ochred bodies were placed fetal position in the cave earth, the idea, the symbolic image, the resonant analogy preceding all icons was in the minds and hearts of our earliest ancestors. In the world's oldest creation myths, the female god creates the world out of her own body. The Great Mother everywhere was the active and autonomous creatrix of the world. And, unlike the aloof and self-righteous patriarchal gods who only recently usurped her mountain throne, the ancient goddess was always there, alive, immanent, within her creation. No ontological scapegoater, she was wholly responsible for both the pain and the good of life. Here is one of the oldest world creation myths from northwest India. At first, Kajum Chantu, the earth, was like a human being. She had a head and arms and legs and an enormous fat belly. The original human beings lived on the surface of her belly. One day it occurred to Kajum Chantu that if she ever got up and walked about, everyone would fall off and be killed. So she herself died of her own accord. Her head became the snow-covered mountains. The bones of her back turned into smaller hills. Her chest was the valley where the Apantis live. From her neck came the north country of the Nagins. Her buttocks turned into the Assam plain. For just as the buttocks are full of fat, Assam has fat-rich soil. Kajum Chantu's eyes became the sun and moon. From her mouth was born Kajum Pampi, who sent the sun and moon to shine in the sky. Mount Everest in nearby Nepal was only recently affixed with the name of a 19th century British surveyor. In reality, this tallest breast of Earth was always known by the native people who lived with her as Chomo Lungma, Mother Mountain of the Universe. All right, next section. That one was short. The Organic Religion of Early Women. This is on page 50. The first god, Mother Earth, was a human concept, or the sign of a human response to an experienced fact. The first arts and religions, the first crafts and social patterns, were designed in recognition and celebration of her. But what were real human females feeling and thinking? we can only see the attributes of the great goddess as the projections of women's experiences of themselves. As we read the powerful magic signs of the Great Mother's celebrations, we can read the first women's powerful discoveries and celebrations of themselves. The religious beliefs, the mysteries and rites developed by ancient women grew organically out of women's supreme roles as cultural producers, mothers, and prime communicators with the spirit world. The mysteries of creation, transformation, and recurrence, the primal mysteries of all religions, emerged from women's direct physical and psychic experiences of these mysteries, in bleeding, in growing a child, in nursing, in working with fire, in making a pot, in planting a seed. In pottery, craft, and myth alone, we can see the development of a religion. The pot was seen to have the body, shape, and internal womb of the mother. In Neolithic Europe, clay was said to have a woman's soul, and no man was allowed to see the female potter at work. Clay, sacred to women and the goddess, was often marked with the maze-like windings of the magic underworld, a place of transformation. Aruru Ishtar, the cosmic creatrix of Babylon, was imaged as a potter, a divine potter, shaper of life. The making of cult vessels was like this shaping of life, and the Babylonian words for rebirth were, "We are as fresh-baked pots." From this, we can see the absurdity and the political co-optation of the notion of a male godfather making human beings from clay or dust. The biblical image is stolen without shame from the earlier Sumerian and Babylonian goddess creation stories. Such a patriarchal version of creation is very recent. The facts of women's experience of life are primordial. It is woman who goes through the sacred transformations in her own body and psyche, the mystery changes of menstruation, pregnancy, birth, and the production of milk. It is woman who first shaped a seed into food, earth into pottery, fire into a tool, the struggle for survival into human culture, woman as procreator and producer-creator. Women's mysteries are blood transformation mysteries, the experience of female bodily transformations magically fused with her conscious and willed transformations of matter. Matter, the mud, the mother, she transforms herself. Religious rites were combined with industry. Women's religions were organic, a unity of body and spirit, of daily life tasks and cosmic meaning. Among the women weavers of the matrifocal Navajo, for example, this is still so. The women experience themselves as being directly inspired by the great spider woman, the original weaver of the universe. They use no set patterns and feel no separation between art, sacred, and craft, secular or profane. The woven blankets are valued as organic expressions of the special powers of the makers. Each blanket with its inspired design has a spiritual significance and is thought of as giving power and protection to the person who wears it. In ancient textiles, a highly charged symbol language was used to communicate her story and myth. Spinning and weaving were imbued with magic powers, and inscribed spindle whorls are found in innumerable Neolithic sacrificial pits sacred to the goddess. The Greek Artemis was seen to spin the thread of life, and the three Norns of Scandinavian mythology sat spinning the web of life, destiny, fate at the roots of Yggdrasil, the cosmic world tree. The subtle energy form of the human body may be seen as a subtle energy form of cosmos, relatively miniaturized, but no less vast and totally alive. The cosmos that we know is a construction, perception, or projection of the energy currents in our own bodily systems. Cosmic mind and human mind are not essentially different or separate, nor are cosmic body and human body. Everything is interconnected in a vast webwork of cosmic being, a universal weaving, in which each individual thing or life form is a kind of energy knot or interlock in the overall vibrating pattern. The Latin root word for religion is religare, which means a bond, a binding back to something. Yoga, interestingly enough, means the same thing, a yoke or a yoking of the individual soul to the all. William Irwin Thompson writes, "The sacred is the emotional force which connects the part to the whole. The profane or the secular is that which has been broken off from, or has fallen from, its emotional bond to the universe. Religare means to bind up, and the traditional task of religion has been to bind up the pieces that have broken away from the ecstatic oneness." End quote. True religion is the original umbilical cord that binds our individual selves back to our larger universal source. That source, in women's religion, is the Great Mother, who is the great cosmic weaver, the divine potter, the carrier of the heavenly water jar. We participate in her substance, her nature, her processes, her play, and her work. In her are both the lower regions of the tomb, the world of the dead, and the upper regions of the celestial sky, whose stars are her eyes. Groundwater belongs to the belly womb region of the lower female. The heavenly rainwater belongs to the great breast region of the upper female. As divine water jar, she is mistress of the upper waters, the rain, and the lower waters, the brooks, springs, and rivers flowing from the womb of the earth. The Egyptian sky and water jar goddess Nut nourishes the earth with her milky rain. In fact, our word galaxy comes from the Greek galaxias, meaning milky circle, and the Milky Way describes the thick white stream of stars pouring from her breasts. As uterus, she is a vessel that breaks with childbirth, pouring forth water like a wellspring. These are all symbols of the creative life and of ecstatic participation in it. The self-representation of the goddess is a form of divine epiphany, and the parts of her body are not understood literally as physical organs, but as numinous centers of whole spheres of life. Her navel is the center of the earth, of us, from which the universe is nourished, by our conscious participation as we are nourished by it. Such symbolism expresses the non-dualistic, poetic mind of ancient women, who could experience their bodies as whole worlds or universes, and the universe as their own body. Ecstasy is the dance of the individual with the all. Ecstasis means standing outside oneself, and so canceling out the conditioned mind. All life was experienced as partaking of a material spiritual wholeness that was her. In this magic unity, ecstasy and responsibility, i.e. responsiveness, were one, and so the earliest communicators with her, of her essence, were ecstatic women, shamans, and seers. In their trance states, they were responsible for keeping the energy channels open and flowing between each individual, the group, and the cosmic source. They healed, balanced, and translated the life forces from one energy manifestation to another. It is significant that to this day, within almost all patriarchal world religions, women's robes are still the official priestly garb, and the male priests function as a kind of male mother to the believers. Among the Siberian tribes, male shamans have always worn ornamental and symbolic breasts on their robes. When civilized men become the moralistic priests of the new father god, women and pagans of both sexes remain the shamans, the witches of the ecstatic mother. The reality implicit in the universe, in each of us, in the self at the heart of being, is her way. It is very ancient and has no time. Quote, "My me is God, nor do I know myself save in her." End quote. Ecstasy is the only way through which the soul can lose itself in union with her. Some male mystics have also understood this. Martin Buber describes prenatal life as the original state of ecstatic consciousness within a sexual spiritual universe, a flowing toward each other, a bodily reciprocity. The mother's womb is a condensed experience of the cosmos. At birth, we forget this undivided world, but we never forget completely. The memory lingers as a secret image of a wish, a desire for total reintegration, and this is the real meaning of the human longing to return to the womb. It is not at all a sign of pathology or inadequacy, not a backward craving, but an urge to expand, to reestablish the cosmic connection. Contemporary researchers have found neurological connections between religious or trance experiences and female sexuality. In women's brains, there are unique neural links between the forebrain and the cerebellum, which allow sensations of physical pleasure to be directly integrated into the neocortex, or higher brain center. This explains why some women experience orgasms so intense that they enter religious trance or altered states of consciousness. And this ecstatic female orgasmic experience, in which the physical and the spiritual are fused and realized as one, is at the core of all mystic experience. This is why, in the original religion of the Great Mother, body and mind and spirit are always integrated. Because human male brains do not seem to have these neurological connections, just as human male sexuality has not evolved radically beyond primate sexuality, while human females, through the shift from estrus to menstruous cycles, have evolved a non-reproductive sexual capacity that functions primarily for affectional bonding, the researchers conclude that it is women who must take the lead in further human evolution toward the integration of the conscious and the unconscious mind and to a more profound understanding of the spiritual nature of the species. What these modern researchers are now discovering is something ancient women always knew. The warring dualisms of matter versus spirit, the hostile antagonisms of sexual body versus religious truth, are recent patriarchal inventions, destructively forced on the world and the soul. They had no place at the beginning of things, for they are neither natural nor true. For women, at any rate, they can never be true, and that is why the first religion originated by women was a sexual spiritual religion, the celebration of cosmic ecstasy. Among these early women, though some more receptive psyches might have acted as shamanic trance channels, we can imagine no real leaders, no followers, no hierarchies, just as there was no hierarchic distinction between the ordinary daily tasks and the most exalted rituals, because we can see these women sharing experiences as a kind of ecstatic rite in itself. They knew life as an ecstatic rite, and as their right to ecstasy. All right, that is the end of that section, and we are going to continue on to female cosmology, the creation of the universe. Okay, that is the end of that section. Let's move right along to the next. Some of these are pretty short, so we're going to keep going for this recording sesh. The next section is female cosmology, the creation of the universe, and that is on page 55. The universe exists as sleeping darkness, unknowable, unknown, wholly immersed in deep sleep. Does she dream in sleep or only when she wakes? We know not. She sleeps. And then in her sleep the divine self appears with passionate creative power. She stirs, dispelling darkness. She who is subtle and full of desire, imperceptible and everywhere, now and eternal, who contains all created beings, wakes, then the world stirs. When she slumbers tranquilly, the universe sinks into sleep. Thus she, the imperishable one, who seems always perishing, always changing, alternatively waking and sleeping, incessantly revivifies and destroys the whole of creation. She is the dark night, and the black soil that holds within itself the intense powers of light, the secrets and the forces of all life. She is the mouth, the vagina, the passionate and wise source from which all comes and to which all returns. The black-winged night laid a silver egg, the moon, in the womb of darkness, in the dark waters. The Divine One resided in that egg during a whole year. Then she, by herself alone, divided into two halves, and out of these halves she formed heaven and earth. The Most Holy One created the world like an embryo. As an embryo grows from the navel, so she began to create the world by the navel, and from there it spread, grew, multiplied in all directions. She was both seed and flower, both primordial and final. The first vibrations of the egg of the world, which unfold to the edges of the universe, are both expanding and contracting, emerging from the source and pulsing outward to disappear into a spherical vortex. The still center, the heart, is the axis of creation. The universal continuum perpetually unfolds, pulses outward, contracts, perpetually spinning through its own center. The egg is a symbol of female creation, female generative energy. At the pole of contraction, our universe existed as an invisible point of dark light, of compacted potentia and energy. This was the world egg. The spiral movement that creates a center and a moving continuous whole is also that which, combined with gravitational contraction, creates the solar system and the atom, and on a large scale, the galaxy. Galaxies seem to be created by the inward spiraling of interstellar gas and the outward spiraling of heat. The same vortical laws govern the movements of water, which composes nearly 3/4 of our physical bodies and 3/4 of the physical body of the earth. Water is pure, potential, and unformed matrix from which all life on earth takes its being. Water that is not a thing, but a flow, a dance. It is from the involution of the unformed but forming waters that the egg crystallizes, takes shape by the turning in on itself of energy, of matter, of consciousness. The macrocosmic cycle and spiraling movements are mirrored in the spiraling cycles of the human microcosm. Our waking and sleeping, our sexuality and solitude, our emotions, our wisdom, our conceptions of time itself, which moves continuously around an unmoved center. All these ideas of the original goddess were incorporated into an ancient Hindu belief and are contained within modern physics and physical cosmogony. Within later Hindu thought, the goddess Shakti Kali, joined with the god Shiva, dances the world into creation, continuously, orgiastically, expanding and contracting together. But the spiral and later the labyrinth are everywhere and from the beginning associated with her original cosmology. All religion and cosmology in all their forms originate in the great laws of life spiraling around the mystery center of creation. The mysteries of life, birth and death, violence, love and beauty, out of body tearing, blood, pain, comes tenderness in a whisper, said love for created being. In later Hindu mysticism, the egg is identified as male generative energy. Whenever you come upon something like this, stop and ponder. If it is absurdly inorganic, male gods brooding on the waters or laying eggs, then you know you are in the presence of an original goddess cosmology stolen and displaced by later patriarchal scribes. All right, another short chapter. That one's very poetic. I like it. The next one is the Cosmic Serpent on page 57. This is a Pelagian creation myth. Quote, "In the beginning, Uranim, the goddess of all things, rose naked from chaos, but found nothing substantial for her feet to rest upon, and therefore divided the sea from the sky, dancing lonely upon its waves. She danced towards the south, and the wind set in motion behind her seemed as something new and apart with which to begin the work of creation. Wheeling about, she caught hold of this north wind, rubbed it between her hands, and behold, the great serpent Ophion. Uranim danced to warm herself, wildly and more wildly, until Ophion, growing lustful, coiled about those divine limbs and was moved to couple with her. So she was with child." End quote. This Pelagian myth is much older than Greek legend. Still, it comes from the transition period when the Great Mother is no longer believed to give birth parthenogenetically. There is now a perception of the male part in conception. In this myth, Uranim is fertilized by the north wind. The wind is the subtle body of the serpent, its movements through the air. Ultimately, though, she is still seen as the creator of male sexual energy, the generative force of the wind, and the great serpent as an emanation from herself, from her passion and her dance. Great live snakes were kept everywhere in the goddess's temples during the Neolithic. In wall paintings, bas reliefs, statues, she was often represented carrying snakes in her upraised arms or coiled around her. Or she was imaged as a serpent herself, with a woman's body and a snake's head. Of one Near Eastern goddess it was said, Pagat, she who observes the water, who studies the dew from the drop, who knows the course of the stars, her heart is like a serpent. The Sumerian goddess was known as the Great Mother Serpent of Heaven, perhaps another image of the Milky Way, the great spiraling galactic arms. Everywhere in the world myth and imagery, the goddess creatrix was coupled with the sacred serpent. In Egypt, she was the cobra goddess. The use of the cobra in her ceremonies and icons was so ancient that the inscribed picture of a cobra preceded the names of all goddesses and became the hieroglyphic sign for the word goddess. Isis also was pictured as a serpent goddess. Far away in Australia, the Aboriginal goddess Una, who established the earth, was pictured sometimes as three sisters with the rainbow snake held up in their arms. And this is a Venezuelan creation myth from the native Yaruros. Quote, At first there was nothing. Then Puana, the snake, who came first, created the world and everything in it. Kuma was the first person to people the land. Everything sprang from Kuma, and everything that the Yaruros do was established by her. End quote. Australia, Venezuela, the ancient Middle East, the distribution of the goddess and her serpent is global. On South Pacific Islands with no snakes, the eel is mythologized. Ancient Celtic and Teutonic goddesses were wrapped with snakes. The Chinese celebrated the dragon power, and the Aztecs and Mayas of Mexico and Central America imaged the feathered serpent or flying snake, a form of dragon. Both the monumental Karnak of Egypt and the mysterious standing stone alignment called the Karnak in Brittany are magic snake alignments. Both names mean serpent's mount. When we see this worldwide occurrence of the goddess and her serpent, and then recall the ancient African black goddess, the black witch, imaged with the snake in her belly, we can see the profound power as well as universality of this cosmological symbol, its range of endurance in the human mind. And we begin to see why the upstart patriarchal religions base themselves on the utter destruction of the goddess serpent, pictured by the Babylonians as primeval chaos, an image picked up later by the Hebrews and used in the biblical Genesis, where Eve, linked with her serpent, become the symbols of ontological evil. Among patriarchal Hebrews, the serpent was portrayed as Samuel, the brother of the evil first woman Lilith. When Old Testament reformers like Hezekiah went around destroying brazen serpents, cult images made of brass, as pagan abominations, what they were really doing was attacking the primordial goddess religion followed by all their neighbors. The Hebrew patriarchs tried to destroy the world's original, most widespread and enduring religion by branding it as evil, and by portraying the mother goddess and her magic snake lover as the source, not of all life, but of all wickedness, hate and condemned by their new tribal god Yahweh. To the degree that they were historically successful in this attempt, Western biblicized peoples have lost their original concept and memory of what the goddess and her serpent really meant to all people in all time. The snake was first of all a symbol of eternal life, like the moon. Each time it sheds its skin, it seemed reborn. It represented cosmic continuity within natural change, spiritual continuity within the changes of material life. Gliding as it does in and out of holes and caverns in the earth, the serpent also symbolizes the underground, abode of the dead who wait for rebirth. Its undulations symbolized the serpentine earth currents of the underground waters. The serpent path on earth was the terrestrial energy flow. The serpent path in the sky was the winding spray of stars in the galactic spiral arm or Milky Way. The connection between snakes and birds is evolutionary. The bird species evolved directly out of reptile species, the shining scales becoming feathers. Some snakes are born alive, but reptiles generally and many snakes lay eggs as birds do. And the egg belongs to the goddess. The formation of the world and of life itself took its beginnings from a double egg, the chromosome and its polar body, maybe, in the midst of which a germ resided, the life embryo. Some of the most ancient Paleolithic engraved and sculpted goddess images show her as a divine water bird with a long, snaky phallic neck and bearing the cosmic double egg in her protruding buttocks, so expressing, in the Upper Stone Age, a non-physical reality through these material symbols of becoming. The mystery of earthly life has its origins in water, in oceans, deep lakes and shallow pools, cave grottos, streams, and rivers, in the sea-like pulse and taste of blood. Before a child is born, water flows out of the ruptured womb ocean within the mother. The very ancient bird-clawed and horned goddess was born in the womb of the mythical waters. The cosmic egg was created by the cosmic horned lunar snake, or laid by a mythic water bird, both bird and snake vehicles of an energy which has its source, both evolutionarily and magical, in terrestrial water. She is one, she is two, mistress of waters and of sky and air. In Egypt, in Babylon, in Crete, India, and ancient Europe, it was believed that her abode is beyond the upper waters, beyond the meandrous labyrinths. She was ruler over the waters on earth, in the skies, and beyond the clouds, where the primordial waters flow. To represent all this, the bird and snake goddess was pictured. Her body is decorated with snake spirals, her arms and legs are snakes, her eyebrows are horned, and the magical source of life, the double egg, lies within her. The goddess was also she who gives life to the dead, aided by her magic serpent, who winds in and out of the earthly tomb womb. The snake, with its stylized image, the spiral, was also seen as the vehicle of immortality and of the image of spontaneous life energy, its continuous flow. The snake could shed its skin but still live, and the moon birthed herself from her own darkness, and the womb bled periodically without being wounded. All were seen as miraculously interconnected transformations. To the serpent was attributed power that can move the entire cosmos, and does. The cosmic snake winds over and around the cosmic egg like a continuous flow of water, of energy. The beginning of life within the egg is caused by the orbiting of two snakes within it, their interaction causing and sustaining a tension field, which becomes form. The symbolisms of snake, egg, horns, fish, and doe, along with the female images of vulvas, triangles, spiraling circles, all related to water, originate in Stone Age times. Egg-shaped sculptures with the vulva engraved on them have been dated from circa 6000 BC. The horned rams and bulls of Neolithic ritual were sacrificed to the ancient bird and snake goddess. Marija Gimbutas points out that the 6th millennium BC saw centuries of drought, and from this comes an obsession with rain and water symbolism, which is everywhere present in ritual, on vessels, and in ideograms of that time. The snake spiral was the basis of ornamental composition in ancient Europe, its peak expression being circa 5000 BC. So we have here some extremely ancient and mysterious connections, or psychic resonances, involving snakes, spirals, waters and the tides, menstrual periods, the moon, the dead, oracular powers, psychic healing, bisexuality, the magnetic earth current, the womb, the stars, immortality, and ever-renewed life. In Africa, snakes issuing from the nostrils indicated clairvoyant powers, doubtless related to the third eye, the pineal gland behind the nose, and the snake hair of Medusa had the same significance. One legendary historic Medusa was an Amazonian queen in the region of present-day Morocco, Algeria, North Africa. According to Merlin Stone, snake venom, injected into people who have previously been immunized against it, has highly hallucinogenic qualities. Some venom is chemically similar to mescaline, peyote, or the psilocybin of mushrooms. Reported effects were clairvoyance, extraordinary mental powers, enhanced creativity, prophetic visions, and illumination about the primal processes of existence. As Stone remarks, the sacred snakes kept at the goddess's oracular shrines were perhaps not merely the symbols, but actually the instruments through which the experiences of divine revelation were reached. And so the Egyptian cobra goddess was also known as the Lady of Spells. We can be sure the ancient women shamans worldwide were aware of this property of snake venom, and that this was one of the recognized meanings of the snake symbols and images inscribed everywhere. Rudolf Steiner, founder of anthroposophy, spoke of the innate clairvoyant power of ancient humanity, a power lost by modern man, who is now unaware of his primordial connection with universal life and its magic energies. Reduced to a mere mechanism, a physical recording apparatus, he lives in a void of utter loneliness and alienation. For it is precisely the astral lunar region, the psychic world of supersensual perception, called by occultists the astral serpent, which patriarchy tells us to destroy, to overcome in the name of an abstract, static, asexual, hyper-rational, and mechanistic system. Finally, the snake came to symbolize the phallus, male sexual energy, which was understood to be originally contained inside the goddess, born from her and returning to her again, when at the end of each world cycle, expansion-contraction, she curls up in a dark sleep. Though Upper Paleolithic images of copulation between women and men occur, icons and myths of the Great Mother do not show her actually mated with a human son/lover until Middle Neolithic times, circa 5500 BC. At this time, and especially after the peak period of Çatalhöyük, there seems to have begun a divorce of male attributes from the mother, and quite a phallic obsession developed, showing in representations of phallic cups, standing phallic stones, and ithyphallic gods, though pictures of shamans in trance with huge erections go far back into the Upper Paleolithic. But these are not aggressive or misogynistic phallic images, rather they seem to represent the phallus serving the goddess, women, and the life processes of all. This is really shown in the tradition of goddess phallus stones, with the goddess figure carved on a phallic-shaped bone or rock. This phallic form of the goddess is found continuously from the Paleolithic through the Neolithic and into the Proto-Urban period in Mesopotamia. Marija Gimbutas sees these goddess phallus icons deriving from the Old Stone Age as suggesting the androgynous nature of the Great Mother. This is so. They also suggest the potential unity of the sexes in mutual love service, before their disastrous splitting apart by patriarchal misogyny and puritanical sex codes. At any rate, from the period of patriarchal cosmological texts, circa 4000 to 3000 BC, the serpent comes down to us as a narrowed and pejorative symbol of male sexuality or immoral sex and of evil. The Egyptians believed that the union of chaos and the wind, the life breath, the all-goddess dancing with her own breath, came forth Maat in the form of an egg. Maat was the Egyptian word for both mother and matter. It was the primordial mud of the Nile from which life grew. It also meant truth and justice, and was often symbolized both as a feather and a vulture. The feather weighed in the balance scales against the soul at death, and the vulture mother who swoops down to pick the dead bones clean for rebirth. Maat is the ultimate truth contained within herself, the potential existence and non-existence of all things, all polarities. She was also pure nothingness, having no identifiable characteristics, but the eternal potency and potential of everything. Another symbol for this same complex of ideas is the Ouroboros, the serpent curled with its tail in its mouth, forming the perfect circle, or female O, or zero, the cycle of all and of nothing. The continuous eternal wisdom cycle of all, coming from nothing and returning to nothing again. The hallucinated dream circle of sleep, waking, and sleep. And who can say which is the dream and which is not? All right, that's the end of that section, or those sections, I should say. I hope you enjoyed today's reading. You can definitely tell we're getting into some deep symbolism here, and I know sometimes during these parts, especially for the less symbolically minded, which I doubt anyone like that is listening to this read through, can be a little bit dense. But hopefully you're finding it interesting. It all is building toward something that for me, as you've heard, was life-changing and shifted my fundamental perspective of life, myself, women, God, goddess, the earth, like just really shifted everything. And digging into the nitty-gritty of the symbols that are especially Western, hyper-individualistic, capitalistic, patriarchal culture was built on is really necessary. So, yeah. I hope you're enjoying it, like I said, and I will see you next time.